going on, guys? This is Jmag here, also known as Jason Magruder with Jmag Stats MMA. I'm here with the Renegade, also known as Cody Gibson, the teacher by day, the UFC fighter by night. He recently just fought for the TUF 31 finale against Katona, and he finally got a UFC contract. Despite a loss, he still put on an amazing show. That's the very first question I want to have answered. What were your thoughts on going through that entire fight? Despite having a loss, it was an amazing fight. It was very close. You still put on a very, very good performance. So just tell me your thoughts on that, first of all.
It was just kind of a roller coaster of emotions that evening. Obviously being bummed that you lost the fight. Fighters, if a lot of fighters that are like myself, you're probably your biggest critic, and you think you're automatically going through your head about all the things you could have done differently. And I was upset I lost. Obviously too, I losing to a guy like Brad, who isn't my best friend. Just kind of like upset with myself. But so I went through that, and then they took me to the hospital after the fight. I had to get a CT scan and make sure everything was good with my brain, and they were worried about what was broke and stuff like that on my face. And so I was in the hospital in Boston for about 5 hours.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm just sitting in a room in the hospital. My brother, who was in my corner, was with me, and we're kind of following along the card and looking at a little bit of the social media stuff so I'm like, all right, it seemed like a lot of people like my fight, which is cool. I don't know. I didn't really think about like, oh, we might get a bonus, obviously being a stacked pay-per-view card, sometimes that is hard for anyone on the prelims to, unless you do something really spectacular, to get a bonus. And so as the card kind of unfolded, I was watching some of the fights on my phone sitting in the hospital, at least keeping up with the results. And it's decision. You see a finish, but it wasn't anything spectacular. And so I was like, well, shit, man, we might actually end up getting a bonus here. And then I'm thinking in my head, well, we still got the main card to go. We still got the two title fights to go. And so anyway, and then first thing we found out was that after the show, after the fights finally ended, which was like so late on the East Coast, it was like, I don't know what time it ended, probably like 1:30, it felt like. Anyway, and then to find out we got the bonus, I was obviously super excited about that. And then to find out what Dana said in the press conference afterwards. So it's just kind of a roller coaster of emotions. But still not happy with the fact that I lost, but at least there's a silver lining to kind of ease some of that pain a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I completely understand that. You still got the UFC contract. Obviously, I'm not asking like any like details on how long it's going to be and whatnot. Have you been given any kind of options with opponents? I know this is still a very fresh fight that just happened. You just came off of a loss. It's the future goal. You want the title, correct?
Well, obviously, I think everybody has those aspirations. But I'm also like realistic with myself, and like, I'm 35 years old. I'll be 36 next month.
Right.
I've been fighting for 15 years. I still feel good. I feel like I was talking to a friend of mine who's in the MMA media space, TJ DeSantis, actually just yesterday about it. And I was like, I still feel like I got a few good years left in me to put on some more performances like last week. So I don't know. Obviously my aspirations are, I feel like I can compete with the very best guys, and I want to try to get a number next to my name as fast as possible, and see what happens. You never know. And a year ago, if you would have asked me if I was going to be on the Ultimate Fighter fighting at UFC 292 at the Tea Garden Arena in Boston, I probably would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
So you never know in this sport what could happen and transpire. But for me, it's like my number one thing is to make as much money as I can before I'm done, and try to set my family up the best I can with that sort of stuff, and invest the money in properly. I don't spend any of the money I make from fighting to live off of. That's what my day job's for. So I'm able to just use it as an investment tool more than anything else. And I'm just going to keep trying to rack up these bonuses, rack up wins. Obviously is important too, but bonuses, and hopefully some performance of the night bonuses. I prefer those over the fight of the nights.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, you're going to be, if people are going home from a card like a big pay-per-view card and they're talking about your fight, I think you did something right. So, um, I like fights like that. I like fights people talk about, and when it's all said and done, I'd like to be remembered as a guy that was entertaining, that people wanted to see fight. So that's as important to me as just about anything else. So yeah, I guess I can't complain in some regards.
We just talked about having the UFC contract. Obviously, Brad Katona gets the UFC contract as well. But then you were able to get that UFC contract based on your performance and how big of a brawl it was. How were your thoughts on him, first off, as an opponent, and then as a person throughout this entire show and having the experience and being around him and in the house with all the other guys? How do you compare him to your teammates and then just the other opponents on Team McGregor?
Me and Brad really didn't. We were roommates in the house, and he did some things that, I got some backlash from people who watched the show and were Brad Katona fans, or Irish people, or Canadians, or something, or people that just had an opinion, and thought I kind of seemed like a bully or an to them. But the reality is, like, those things are like little clips, little edits that there's so much missing from the context of it. And I wish I could explain that to people. Like, listen, you don't even know what transpired between us. They didn't show 95% of it, and they showed one clip where I finally blow up on the guy, and I'm an asshole. But
Right.
and I don't need to go into all the details, but at the end of the day, like, he would do things in the house that benefited him but hurt other people. And for me, like, that's where I drew the line. Like, I understand if you're going to be selfish, because that's kind of what this sport requires. I understand if it's all, I think you said something to the effect of, like, I'm team Brad Katona, which, more power to you. I don't have a problem with that. But when you're doing things that actually hurt other people and impact other people, and you do them despite that, if it benefits you, those are the types of things that bother me. And so enough of those things occurred throughout the course of the filming, where that final day, literally the day of the semifinals, our last day in the house that morning, I just kind of blew up on him. And it is what it is. As far as a fighter goes, I gave him a lot of criticism in that little exchange for being a boring fighter, and I think that criticism was based on reality. If you go back and watch his fights, especially his post UFC fights when he went over to Brave, he just holds guys against the fence. In all those fights, he takes them down. He doesn't do a lot of damage. He just kind of kills the clock and gets decisions, and doesn't, it's obviously calculated. It's smart. He has the skills to do it. But to me, it was just, what I'm watching is a guy who didn't really want to exchange with people, didn't really want to fight, and was just playing it safe. And so I actually stand by my criticisms of him,
Right.
with the exception of the semifinals and then obviously my fight. And I think the biggest difference was either one, he grew as a fighter. I know he has a new striking coach that he's really hyped on. So maybe he's grown as a fighter since his time in Brave. And he, doesn't rely on just holding guys down anymore. Or another theory is maybe Timmer and myself forced him to fight, and he couldn't take us down as easily as he wanted to, or he couldn't hold us against the cage like he thought he wanted, or he might have wanted to. And so because of that, he was forced to fight. And when he's forced to fight, he fights. And I definitely, gained respect for him. He's tough. I really thought that my pressure, a lot of times in the gym, I'll put pressure on guys like that, a high volume, and just, walk them down, pressure. And eventually a lot of guys will break. Brad didn't break at all. And so, I got respect for him for sure, more respect than I had before I fought him. Yeah, I kind of had to eat my words a little bit, but just to kind of share with, like, where my head was at when I said what I said, and why I kind of to some degree stand by that.
You said you didn't have like the best relationship with some of Team McGregor, but then there's Conor McGregor himself. What were your thoughts on him? It looked like he was really, really like chill and I'm talking about like at the beginning, not towards the end. Whenever he was being all friendly and trying to hang out with everybody, it looked like he was trying to be like outgoing with everybody, no matter what team they were on. And obviously, you could see that the mood really started to change whenever the losses started to stack up on top of each other. And whenever he was going off on everybody, you go, "Get on your jet, you're going home." and he was just going off on absolutely everybody on Team Chandler and Chandler to McGregor. So what are your thoughts before that all happened and after?
I mean, to be honest, he was just very erratic on the show. You never knew what you were going to get with him. Some days he would come in and he had that kind of like friendly attitude, where he was nice to everybody and cordial. There were times too where he would come to the house and he was just kind of in the background of watching the fights or something. That's pretty much the only kind of cool activity we got to do in the house. Was on Saturdays. They would put on the fights for us, and he came over for a couple of those. And sometimes he was drinking and having a good time and
Right.
kind of all over the place. And then other times he would kind of be in the background and not say much. And so it was just very like hit or miss with him. You never knew what you were going to get.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was an incident in the house that wasn't filmed, or at least not shared, with myself and him,
Oh,
where he
okay.
came. It actually occurred after Rico's semifinals fight.
Mm-hmm.
He ran around the cage. They showed him running around the cage and celebrating. But
Okay.
what they didn't show is that he ran up and sideswiped me and slapped me across the face.
No
Um,
way.
and I mean, I guess it was a good move. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't see him until it was too late. He jumped up to the barrier we were standing on and just whacked me and then ran off. And so obviously after that, he was really nice to me because I think he was worried I was going to sue him. Um, so yeah, he was very like, would look at you every time after that. He would like, you could just tell he was uneasy, like trying to be nice to me. And we talked a little bit after my semifinals fight with Rico. He like, apologized, I guess, in his own way, and wanted to bring it in for a hug or whatever, a hand clap. But um, you know, I don't know. He's not my favorite guy, but I try to I try to live by a motto that like to each their own. Everybody lives their own way, I live the way I want to live and try to uphold the character I am, and he lives the way he wants to live. And I've never had that kind of money, so I don't know what that does to you. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, just very different people, and I'm happy that my time with Conor is come to an end. Though hopefully we don't have to cross the paths too many more times.
I'm so surprised that wasn't added to the show. Like, I've been seeing so many different guys on there saying like, "Oh, like here's like some fun little clips with me and blah blah blah." But then you're telling me that he full on swiped you across the face. So if that ever ends up getting released, that will go crazy on all social media. So,
Yeah, they said they didn't catch it on film, which
okay,
I don't
that makes
know.
sense.
Maybe
Because I was
I
gonna be
mean
really surprised.
yeah, I don't know. And I mean, everyone everyone was like, "You should sue that dude," because he's a billionaire. and
Yeah, he just settled
um
instantly.
and I'm just like, that's certainly not the way I handle things. I've never made $1 in my life I didn't work for, so I don't think I'm going to start now. But
Right.
it is what it is. More power
Hmm.
to him. Is a good move.
Right.
Um, but yeah, definitely. I wasn't very happy with him after that.
Yeah, so then you have the complete opposite kind of guy, Michael Chandler, who's constant just mentality building. He's making YouTube videos, he's making podcasts just on helping people build and just mentally grow as like either it being in combat sports or being a fighter or just any kind of athlete or just day-to-day life in general. And whenever I watched that episode, whenever it was really focused on you and obviously your fight against Mando Gutierrez, you guys really seem to have like a really good connection, and he seems like an absolutely nice guy. Yeah, my mother actually met him at the airport, and he's apparently was extremely nice to her and everything. And back to like your relationship with him, it looked absolutely amazing. And do you think that is one of the most like the best coaches you could probably ever ask for?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a lot of expectations going in with the whole coaching,
Right.
or even the team atmosphere. I was in the same boat as a lot of fans are, like thinking to myself in my head, like, how do these guys form a team and act like they care about each other? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's only like 5 weeks of filming. Um, but then you get in there and you're like going through this experience and you're suffering in the same ways. Like you're missing home, you're missing your family, you're in an environment that you're never comfortable in. Like it's not like you go to train, you go to sparring day or something, you have a hard sparring session, and then you get to go home and be in your own environment and relax with your wife and your kids, and there's just something to that when you don't have that and you're constantly on edge, you're sleeping next to guys you're going to be fighting, and it definitely wears on you, And so I think that Michael did such a good job of just bringing us together as veterans. We all had this common thing about us that we'd been released from the UFC and had kind of gone through the trenches to try to get back. And so it was really easy for us to find that commonality and then start to build relationships. And I attribute a lot of that, our ability to do that, to Chandler and the other coaches that he brought in, because they have to create that environment. That's one thing I know as a coach and a teacher, is that you set the classroom environment. And so if you come in every day with a bad attitude, or like you don't really want to be there, or you only care when the cameras are on and that sort of stuff, then obviously that's the environment you're going to set. And for them, they went head first with like, hey, we're here to, we're going to talk about fighting and maybe work on some strategies, but we're only going to accomplish so much on the technical side in 4 or 5 weeks. And you guys are all veterans. You know how to fight. It's just little things we could maybe work on. But so for them, their focus was on the mental side, like making sure that we felt good, that we were confident, that we, anything we needed was being taken care of, at least the best of their abilities, what they could get for us or do for us. He was really active at talking to the UFC PI, just for an example, at getting us rehydration drinks when that wasn't something that was going to be afforded to us. He made sure to go out of his way to make that happen. So little things like that he did that showed that he actually cared, not just when the cameras were on, but also when they were off. And so, yeah, it was cool, man. And having relationships with all those coaches. I got to see Coach Strout, striking coach out there at Kill Cliff FC.
Oh, yeah, I love Jason.
Dude, he is like the coolest guy, man. He's always like doing graffiti art or riding
really
a Vespa
interesting.
around. He's like a renegade, man. He's a Renaissance man kind of dude. He just all over the place. He's lived all over the world. He's just a cool guy, man. He's the kind of guy I like to be around. He's always like super positive and like happy to be there. You can tell he loves kickboxing. And so, yeah, just getting to see him again. And Coach Drysdale was just like a wealth of knowledge. He's out of Vegas. So, I mean, I just got a lot of places I can go and train. I'm already talking to Timmer about trying to make a trip out to Thailand to go and see him and his family and get some training. So, I mean, when you have big connections with people from different parts of the world and you have opportunities to go and travel and train, I mean, that's a big part of this for me, that just the experiences and the fun doing those sort of things. And now I've got so many places to go and visit. So, yeah, I'm excited about some of the opportunities that might come up in the next year or two.
Yeah, I mean, Killcliff FC is absolutely amazing. I know a couple of guys out there. I never actually talked with Jason Strout, but just his aesthetic and like all of his coaching is it's so cool. And there's a guy also little smaller fighter, 145. I actually 10 pounds over you, but he's in PFL right now. Do you know Alexi Pergande?
Sounds familiar. Is he a Kill Cliff guy?
Yes, he just won his fourth fight a couple days ago on that PFL tournament, and he went to Nashville MMA a couple of times and taught a couple of classes. But yeah, really the whole aspect of that is those big fight clubs. Despite like all of these big guys, big names in there, they all seem like they're really nice with each other. And obviously in Thailand, were you referring to Tiger Muay Thai with Timur?
Yeah, I think Timur actually, don't quote me on it, but he was talking about one of his friends who was also in Thailand, was opening up a new gym there in Phuket. Is that how you pronounce it? Phuket? I know you don't pronounce it the other way.
I don't know.
And so I think he might be working out of that gym now. I'm not sure,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, there's just so much training there and so much good bodies to move with, and I'm sure a lot to learn in if you have I've been in traditional Muay Thai gyms with traditional Muay Thai, and it's fun to learn like martial arts, even though like you have to apply it to MMA and bring some of that over and not all of it's going to, like, it's fun to immerse yourself in the boxing community or the jiu-jitsu community. And for me, that's how I've always approached it, is I can't take all this stuff. I'm not going to do a lapel choke in a fight, obviously, but like, I'm going to immerse myself in this martial art, and then I'm going to pull the things out that I can use and bring it back to my mixed martial arts training. And so whenever I get opportunities to, kind of immerse myself in a martial art, so something like Thailand for me would be right up my alley, just to go in and Man, I'd wear the headband. I'd be the whole thing, man.
I
I'd be a
know.
Muay Thai fighter.
It's cool. It's such a cool thing. I love all the things they wear and the high shorts and everything like that. So you have your UFC contract now. So championship just happened with UFC 292. Sean O'Malley knocking out Aljamain Sterling, who's actually, you know, old opponent of yours. Like what was your reaction to UFC 292? Obviously, because you were at that one in Boston. Obviously, you took that loss and you were in the hospital and everything. Later, were you able to watch it and have like a good reaction to that championship fight?
Yeah, I mean, Aljamain's a friend of mine. After we fought each other, he came to California like a couple weeks after our fight and stayed at my house, and we went up and down the state training together. Met my family, my parents, my brothers. So I mean, and we've kind of always stayed in touch for the last 8 years. Just kind of periodically checking on each other, see how things are going. So I've kind of always been in his corner. Throughout his career as he kind of rose to the prominence that he rose to. So I was obviously bummed for him. I spent a lot of time with him on fight week, during fight week last week as well. He was right there with us in the meat grinder of the hotel and
Mm-hmm.
training. He didn't have too many special accommodations for like a champion. Like he was training right there in the hotel gym with us and cutting weight in the same area we were cutting weight, and the whole 9 yards. So yeah, I spent some time with him. Obviously, I was bummed for him, but that's the nature of the game, and that's what everybody knew. Sean O'Malley, if he's going to win this fight, it's most likely going to be a sniper like right hand, like he
Right.
landed, and Aljo made a critical mistake coming in and kind of overextending. And O'Malley did what we know O'Malley can do, and he's the champ, and so that's the way the game goes sometimes.
Do you think he deserves a rematch?
I mean, yeah, I think someone who's beaten and who's on quite the title run, especially in our division where it just doesn't seem like anybody can hang on to the belt for too long. Um, I mean, I think on paper it makes sense that he gets a rematch. I don't think it's going to happen. Um, I think that Cheeto Vera is going to somehow
Yeah.
find himself in a title shot, and the only reason being is because Cheeto Vera has a big following in Ecuador and South America, and people like him here in the States as well. His attitude, and he's kind of has a fu attitude, and
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like it too. So I
He's
think that I mean, he's the guy with numbers next to his name as far as views,
mm-hmm.
and that's what O'Malley's looking for. Obviously, he's calling out Gervonta Davis already.
Yeah.
He's ready to skyrocket into stardom. So I mean, I feel bad for guys like Rob, who obviously deserve a title shot.
Mm-hmm.
Even Corey Sandhagen, that guy has been on a streak too, so he deserves it. Um,
Well, for Corey, it's kind of different. He had that huge surgery, the big giant gash of a stitch mark now on his arm, so he'll be out for a while. That makes sense. But do you think he probably would have even gotten that shot?
I mean, Marab's the obvious one who deserves it,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think they're going to give it to Aljo. I don't know what Aljo's going to do. Um, I don't know, man. I think Cheeto Vera is going to somehow get a title shot, and that's a fight O'Malley should win. I think. Um, yeah, but I mean, he's going to eventually have to fight Marab. He's going to
Right.
eventually, if Aljo goes and wins another fight, if Corey Sandhagen, that'd be a great fight. Two
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal strikers, similar size. That'd be an interesting fight. I actually think Corey Sandhagen's the best striker in our division. I love watching him fight. I've been looking at his instructionals, man. He's a wealth of knowledge. So
Oh yeah.
I'm a big fan of his as well. So
And he introduced a lot of
we're,
good wrestling last time too for UFC Nashville.
yeah, and he would secure that half guard position and just lock Font down, and that was, I mean, round after round. It wasn't the most exciting thing, but it was
Yeah.
impressive that you're able to do that against a guy as high quality as Rob Font. So
It made sense, obviously, because he's fighting a Nurmagomedov. That's what the original fight was supposed to be. So,
and that's the thing too. Umar's he's on the come up, and obviously he's a little bit lower in the rankings only because he hasn't fought the names. But somebody's gonna have to fight that dude.
I
And
know
I think it's gonna end up being like a Rob Font or somebody, because guys like Rob Font, they're not afraid to fight anybody.
for sure.
So I could see somebody like that having to fight him, or I don't know. That would be a bad fight for Font based on his takedown defense in the last one.
Right.
But Umar does a lot more stand up, right?
Hmm.
He's not like just a Khabib guy,
Oh
right?
yeah, no, he had a really good stand up on this last one. Like, he even did like a like a final like a extra shot, and he felt super bad about it too. and he's a really little guy, and he was able to get a really, really hard punch against this guy. I don't know what his name was, but he was really successful in that last one.
Yeah, he looks like a killer, and you could tell sometimes when a guy gets a hold of somebody, and you could just like I remember this was Kamzat, or that guy's name is.
Hamza.
Kamzat, when he first jumped on the scene, even though he wasn't fighting like the stiffest competition right away, you could just tell when he got a hold of guys like, oh, this guy's elite level grappler, you know. And I feel the same with Umar when he gets a hold of guys. I've kind of been like, oh, this guy's like, he's got that next level kind of grappling. So yeah, man, it'll be interesting to see how he comes up too, and whether he gets himself in that title picture as well pretty soon.
And speaking of prospects, kind of, and I guess you could call it in some sort of way. Granted, he came off of a loss. The attention really comes based off of his age. Same weight division as you, Raul Rosas Jr. Would that actually be a fight you'd be interested in, considering, both of you guys aren't in the rankings. You are both coming off a loss. Granted, I know he's fresh in the UFC. He has one UFC when you're a UFC vet. And would you ever consider, that could be the next thing you guys do?
Yeah, I'm not opposed. I'm not usually in the camp of like turning down fights, you know.
Mm-hmm.
My mentality's always been like either I want to know as much as anyone else wants to know is how high I can climb. And obviously I'm trying to get a number next to my name. There's a lot of fun fights I think for me in the division. I really liked Chris Gutierrez lately. I really like Adrian Yanez. The Christian Rodriguez is another kid I like watching.
Oh yeah.
There's another guy who's the dude who has like a twin brother. He trains out of Vegas. And they're like Middle Eastern. Two brothers, 135s and 145s, I think. Beshart, I think is his last name.
I don't know. I wish I actually had a ton of research done on the bantamweight division before I did this, but yeah, I mean I guarantee,
He's
a
like
ton.
3-0 in the UFC. But anyway,
Oh, okay.
there's a lot of guys, man. There's a lot of guys. Mario Batista, I know he's probably gonna want to get somebody in the rankings. Probably deserves that. But I mean, for me, it's just like what fun fights. Victor Henry, man. Victor Henry. I've known about Victor Henry for 15 years. He's been fighting as long as I have, and that guy's fought all over the world. And I was like, man, is this guy ever going to end up in the UFC? And then all of a sudden he popped up, and he's been doing real well. And that would be a fun fight. And he trains in Southern California with a former opponent of mine as his coach. One of his coaches, Chad George. So yeah, to me, that all those types of fights that I think are just interesting guys that would bring out interesting stylistic fights with me. But yeah, I don't really say no. So whoever they put in there against me is who I'm going to fight, and we'll see who they line me up with.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that you have like an eye on everybody and a lot of names that you know. So I hope you do fight soon. And I was on the edge of my seat watching that fight with you and Brad Katona. That was a very, very exciting fight to watch. I'm not a guy who really watches the early prelims, and I wish that those fights were in the pay-per-view. Those were extremely exciting. That was the most exciting finale. In reality, actually, the best tough fight I think I've ever watched. Granted, it wasn't like a finish or anything, but you went to the end, and that dude has an insane tank, and you would not stop, and that's what gets you the contracts. I know it's not fun spending 5 hours in the hospital after, but you got that contract, so good luck to you.
Yeah,
I really
try to find the silver lining.
Absolutely. Seriously, good luck to you, and I really hope things come out with the success. And obviously, you're teaching and everything, and hope all the people you were teaching and things like that have an inspiration up to you guys. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Good luck with you and your channel. Looks
Thank you
good,
so
man.
much. See you later.
All right, we'll talk later. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.